Okay, here's Papa. Here's Jerry Bourgain. November 1st, 2017. Little tour of the Emporium. Yeah.
This bench is out of Depot, and I brought it through the window to get it in here. But and then I took a pressure washer and took all the varnish off of it and redid it. And the reason it's got arms on it here, if you were in the depot and you're waiting on the train and it wasn't there yet, they tend to lay down on it. And this keeps them from laying down on it, so that give people a place to sit. Somebody isn't laying there. All these pictures are Sterling. These pictures here, like this right here, is old gas tractors coming across the river outside the town. They didn't let them come in on the bridge because they were too heavy, and they had a kind of resonance that they make, and so they make them go across the river. And this is called leapfrogging. They put big planks down, and they'd run that tractor out on them planks. And if they ever went off the plank, they'd go into the sand, and they'd just sink down. And they'd be pretty brave, I always thought, to run that tractor out there and run your tractor out. This is another picture of it there. This is a 29 flood. This in here is a swimming pool down here where you turn and go into the lake. This is a building that was right there. They made ice and ice cream later on in that building. And they had a sign there that says coal and ice. You could buy that. But that was right on the corner. This is a little Dyser Park over here. This building right here was a bank, Citizen State Bank. I like this picture right here especially. There are several pictures of this, but there are two women right here that's got their bustles on and their dresses, and they're just talking to each other. They're going up, coming down off of this, and there's slats. You can see slats on the trees. That's to keep the horses from breathing the bark off the trees. And they had those on for quite a while. This here's the lake down here when it was a sand pit, and it was a sand boat. These guys on there, if I really looked at him, your grandpa might be on there. Dad might be on there. He was working for a producer sand company. And when we come to Sterling, I was born in Wichita. When we come to Sterling, I was 1 year old, almost a year old. And they brought that sand boat that he was on down there and brought it up and put it on this lake. And pump sand on and go take it up here to the tipple, which the tipple is where the bathhouse is now. This picture here is one of the old fire trucks, one of the first old fire trucks, and they're taking the building in back of it here is that's this building we're in now. And this one here, they're getting ready to put brick down. They dug up the whole street on this one right here. This is a parade item. They had a parade. Their parades went down one side of the street, turned around, and came back, which is a good way to do it. This picture right here is of the barber shop over here when it was in 1914. And it still has this chicken wire floor in it. That's some of the stuff when they tore up the main street out here and put the brick down. they actually put brick down on the street all the way from Lyons all the way to Hutchinson. They went right through Sterling, right on out of Sterling, and clear on to Hutch on a brick highway. And then if you were sitting in if you were waiting on a train, you might hear that key working. It'd be the Morse code, and they put sometimes they put like this has got an old velvet smoking pipe can in there. They made it resonance bigger, not louder. You could hear it. You could hear it better. Then they kind of did away with that, and these bells then were put up. And this is kind of like, even though the railroad kind of goes east and west, they call it kind of like a north and south. But when that bell rang, it'd be like out toward Dodge City, or maybe up toward Great Bend, and they could plug into a little box here that had a headset, and they could talk to each other at the depots. This is a young man's club that was above the building over here in the studio now, 96. This one is a picture of a guy named Clint Asher and his foreman, and it was on a ranch in near Trinidad, Colorado. They had a big ranch out there. He was a local guy. He was a local in here. This there is the elk hide coat that belonged to the president of the First National Bank, Charlie Farrell, and his hat. I went in his house and he was up at the manor for a while. I went into his house in his office and I stole these. I stole that, and he had a pair of spurs. I got them and a whip. Then I come back and told him, I said, Charlie, I went up and stole this stuff from you, but I want to get you out here on a pickup and put a saddle on it. I want you to sit on it, and I want you to dangle these spurs in your finger, and just kind of like, this is you. Oh, I'll do that sometime. I suppose I can do it. So, yeah, let's do it. No, we won't do it right now. He died in the next week, 2 weeks. So I didn't never get that done. And this cabinet was next door, in the building next door. It was between the offices of Dr. Dicer and Dr. Gill. And what I was going to do with it, they pushed it in here through a fire door, and they had it in here, and I put it in the wall here like it was in their building next door. And I was going to put clear glass in it, but they put their some tools in it, and some medicines and so forth, and you could hear that door, these doors going. Well, Dr. Gill especially, this would be like the Dysart's office. He'd be in there with a patient. You knew what the symptoms were of that patient as well as yours. You could hear his voice, and then you'd hear this door open up, and you'd be getting something out of it. And so I just left it that way. I thought this would be a good thing, just leave it. And these are kind of wrinkled here a little bit. That's because this building, they were getting ready to tear it down. And that's when I decided to get it and just kind of fix it up. So the wrinkles was kind of where the rain came through the roof in the next room here. And it kind of messed it up. Now down there and down here. So I left that there, just left it alone. This is a water tank for the steam trains, and it had a windmill there to pump water into it. This is where the lumber yard is now, the DJ Fair. DJ Fair was one of the first businesses here. He wasn't exactly the first business, but he was awful close to it. And then we ought to jump in here in the next room. So these are just items that come out of Sterling. So some of these were, I don't even know what that one was. Anyway, it was something that they awarded. This room, in the first place, let's just say that the Sterling was established in 1872. And the reason I always said was because because of the railroad. The railroad had reached Newton in 1871, or up to that point. It hadn't gone any further. So it was going to come out through here in 72. There was a guy by the name of Charlie Lyons. He was about 19 years old or so in Topeka. He looks in the paper and he sees where they want contractors for grading. The Santa Fe Railroad to come out through here and go out. It was going to be going out to Great Bend, on out Dodge City, Trinidad, and on down to Albuquerque. So he's got three of his buddies and their horses and whatever. He didn't have tractors and things. He got the contract for grading this road out here, 2 miles of it, right through Sterling. So he said when they came here in 71 to do that, there was, of course, nothing here but buffaloes and wild antelope and grass, no trees. And he said the nearest building they heard was a building anyway, was in a place down south that was called Hutchison. And they had one building. They brought a building, the first building in Sterling, they brought it from Peabody and put it together down here by the lake. And it was used for churches, used for meetings, everything. It was only about a 2-room building. But anyway, what I kind of was getting to was that they come up to the 72 then, and a preacher come out here with some members, and they were kind of the first ones here. They called it peace. When they surveyed this, the surveyors put cities on the map, or towns on the map, where they thought there might be a good place. Sterling was one of them. Alden would be another one. It goes on up the line. So this preacher came, and it would be Friends, like Friends Church. Friends Church was one of the first churches here, and they might have their until 1876. I think they finally got a building. But in 72, there was only about 15 people in the whole dang country here. That was all. And by 1876, they were up to about 244. So they said, well, we want to be a third class city. So we want to change the name. We don't want peace. That sounds too wishy-washy. No, this is a protective place. There are people coming in, the railroads here, they're bringing stuff in. So now, they changed it in 1876 to Sterling. Then in 77, there was about 650 people here. So that tells you how fast it was going. And then actually they built about 40 houses a year, little old shotgun houses they called them, out through, there's still some of those on Main Street. They come along they built the building. The buildings were not brick. They didn't have brick right away. They did have a brick factory here in two places. They made a brick that was a soft brick. It was all right as long as it was protected pretty good. But in 1880, which was just 8 years later, that was their baptism of fire. And it burned. They had a fire that burned down halfway the block across the street. It burned on this side of the street, it burned down a half a block. It burned up down at the corner, it burned this way. All that happened in 3 bad fires in 1880. So the doctor that was over across the street was a P.P. Trueheart, something, I can't think, Powhatan something, but they call him P.P. Trueheart. They call him affectionately, they call him Daddy. And it was Daddy Trueheart. He was across the street. He came over here. This had been burned out. He came over here in 1883 along with a Van Patten and a Burden. This was his front office here. And then Van Patten was in the next office, and then Burden was in the next office. So there's 3 doors outside that went into each one of these offices. And so they treated, this is kind of the first place that penicillin was used for the public. This was the first kind of like fluoroscope, like your x-ray. The college up here was formed in 1889. It was starting to use, that's where you could go to get your x-rays done. And that was the beginning of x-rays that were, well, they said they were in Europe would be the place where that really started. But it was either here at that time. The fluoroscope was a thing that you could put your hands under, or you could see your bones, or you could, and then, later on, in my time, later on, you could go to a shoe store and you could put on a pair of shoes and stand on this machine and look in through a visor and see your feet and see how close your feet fit the shoe. This was a selling point. The parents would look through it. The salesman was looking through it. You were getting bombarded by x-rays that was really way more than you should be getting. And finally they realized what they were doing, and at that time they quit that and they took them out of all the stores. They didn't do that no more. Anyway, since they had the fires, they said we're going to have to have water. Well, Sterling was blessed by water because it's so close to the top of the ground. The lake is the water table in the whole town. It sits on a square mile. What they did, they went up here to the light plant. They made the new light plant. This is a point that you drove down in the ground, and then they drove 38 of these in the ground up there, and then tied them all together, ran a line, an 8-inch pipe water line down town here, from up here at the light plant that's up north here. They ran it up down here, and then in In 1889, they 1887, all the people come out, and of course then people came out. They come for anything. The whole place was filled up with people out here in the streets. They turned the hydrants on down here at the corner, and the water come gushing out. And people said that the crowd yelled, and it was better than a Comanche Indian. They said they just screamed and hollered, and it was great. They had water now. So then, before that, all they had was this like a pitcher pump, and these were maybe in a store, or maybe they'd been houses along the side. But when they had these fires, they couldn't do anything but go get buckets of water from their neighbor over here and go fight the fire. And they had wooden sidewalks, and they had wooden awnings. You could stand on the awnings. They were wood. All they could do was tear those down ahead of the fire. They couldn't put water on it. They didn't have water, only once they could get the buckets. So this was a whole new thing. Then they were really going something now. They had all this, they had new buildings going up, and that's when, of course, like P.P. Trueheart and these other, they came across the street here in '83 and built this building. And this was kind of like then in 1920, P.P. Trueheart had a boy, Marion, and Marion was a very noted physician in X-ray and in cancer treatment and that kind of thing. They actually built that building next to this building in 1925, and this was kind of like an overflow into they had in here, when I redid this, they had a petition here, and this was full of electric stuff, not electronic. It's electric, like tubes, like Frankenstein's laboratory. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Big old tubes and stuff. And I guess when they fired that thing up, there was like electricity flying all over the place, and to set these fluoroscopes, the doctor would put his own hand underneath and then turn the voltage till he could see his hand, and he'd use it on the patients. That was a bad deal anyway, because lots of physicians then actually died from radiation from that. But I had the doctor say, "Don't you remember when Marion walking around with a little piece of sandpaper and was taking off the loose skin that he'd been checking his setting that machine?" This right here, I tell the kids, and this is a do-it-yourself hair dryer. What it is a blacksmith's forge, and it blows air out when you turn it and blows it into the fire. It has a tube that went into the blacksmith's forge, and it also made the fire hotter. You had one of these. Every farmstead had one of these in it. This is just nothing more than a pedal grinder, and you do a pedal on the bicycle. And then you put whatever your axe or you put your knives, you put them on here and sharpen them. About every farmstead had one of these. It was the only way they could sharpen some of their stuff. If you didn't have radio, didn't have thing, you had one of these things maybe. And this thing was this is what you listen to at night or any time. You wind him up and crank him up and turn him on and then put a record on him. This is a volume control.
stopped, you just had to take it off and take it off and turn it off. Then this is a barber chair, and then it had a seat for the little ones to sit on. This whole thing was we got pool. We had a snooker table here that we played on all the time. I bought that picture up there. I got that picture because I wanted the frame. But after I looked at her for a while, I decided I wanted to keep her. And I liked the way that her hair was parted, but that was 1800s. That's the way they dressed back then. That's Quigley. That's a lumber yard. It was over here north of the stoplights. This picture of when you talk about parades, we were noted for parades. This is like 1875. This is two horses. You got a woman that's on the back horse here. She's got reins that go clear to the front horse. I like this picture because both horses are in step with each other, and she's driving the front horse, and the back horse is following. That was a pretty neat picture, or a pretty neat thing, I thought. You can't maybe see it, but that's if you want to call it a buffalo skull, bison. It was out here at the river. And usually when you went down the river, if you could find bones that were 5 or 6 feet down in the bank, you knew that they were going to be buffalo. They didn't have cattle back then that would be doing that. The ice cream thing, we got ice cream, Sterling ice cream. That's a whole new story because before the ice cream came, you got to go back to ice. The only way you could get ice was that they had 2 places in town that were ponds that would freeze over in ice. You go to those ponds, cut the ice out of it, they'd take it and put it into barns. They had 2 barns here in town that were pretty big. And you'd go in there and put a layer of straw down, then you put a layer of ice, and you put straw on top of the ice, and you put another layer, and you just kept putting in. They'd get up to, they might get up to 600 ton of ice. And that would hold them through usually the hot part of the year up to where it was fall again. What happened was people were starting to get sick, and the doctors finally zeroed it down that this ice that they were using in drinks and whatever was nothing more than out here in the elements. Dirt, whatever. It might look clear, it might be pretty good, but it's got microbes in it or somewhere. So they said, wait a minute, we got to have an ice plant. So this guy, Hawkins is his name, he said, I'll build an ice plant. And so he built this ice plant, and after he did it, he was making about 400 ton a month. And then they found out that when other people found out in closer towns to us, they wanted some ice. So he had to get more equipment. He made a lot more ice for them even. They'd take it to these other towns. And then in Sterling here, you'd go up and down the street. They had up on the ice plant. You'd go up and the iceman would go by, and he'd look in your window, And you'd say, oh, you had you wanted 25 pounds. If you wanted 50 pounds, you turned it. If you wanted 75, you turned it. So he would stop, get the ice out, come in, and put it in your ice box. The ice box was like this white one here. That's not a refrigerator. It's not an electric refrigerator. It's for ice. You took the top and you put the ice in up here, and then the coolness of it went down below. And melting ice would melt into a pan. Now, I didn't get very good response out of it, but when I tell the kids that, I said, your job, Mom said your job was to watch the ice pan and make sure that the water wasn't overflowing, and it was your job to go empty it. Never got too good a response out of that from them. They just look at you. Anyway, I wanted a saddle. So this man up here north of town said there's one out there in the barn laying in the dirt. And I said, I'll take it. So I took it, and come find out it's a Stelzig, called a Stelzig saddle. They were still in business in Houston. I sent it down to Houston, to this place. They made a new fender for it with all the engraving on it. There was tooling on it, and fixed it all up, painted her up and everything. So then when I was down to Houston, I picked it up and brought it home. And so I had something to put in here. These bridles, this bridle, it's got a US on it. That's a cavalry, US cavalry bridle. The lake, I don't know, the pictures here are just various pictures of local kids, people. I always liked this picture right here. This picture is my era, kind of. These guys were all friends of mine. They're all gone. They're all gone now. Gerald Massey was the last one. So of these bunch here, but they were all. I always liked that. I thought that was an ornery looking bunch. They were at a girl that was in my class. It was her birthday party. These ornery boys were all of them there. They looked at putting cakes. This is Sankey, Larry Sankey, and Yackel. They put their up there on a cake on her head. This picture here is like the sand pit we was talking about in near the lake in Sterling. This was done by Heater. He was an architect here, and he drew this. He drew this the way it is. This is the way the bathhouse was and the beach, and then their little bridge is still there. This little building here was, it held boats that belonged to businesses. My dad worked for a Baker and Booth garage down here later on. They had a boat there. So at night, a lot of times we'd go down there and no motors or nothing. You rode around, you took the boat out of here and you rode around the lake at night. A lot of times I'd go to sleep just out there rolling around. They had a light up here in the top of it that was like a traffic light, red, green, and yellow. And they just had the lights shining out of it all the time. So the lights kind of glanced off of reflected off of the lake. And it was pretty. It was really pretty. they actually come along and put a little lean-to on it, and a local guy here sold hamburgers out of there. You could go get a hamburger out of there. And then in 50 or 50, I'd say 50, maybe 1950, when the lake was frozen over, they picked that up and took it across the lake, back in this back neck back here, and took it out. And I found it. It was between here and Lyons, and it was about a half a mile off the highway, and they made a cattle shed out of it. But that was pretty cool. But that guy, all this was done under what they called the WPA, that when Roosevelt was in the president, you know, and they had the 29 crash, and this is how they put people to work on this WPA program, and Sterling was one of them, that they made this into a lake, and Marion Heater drew up the blueprints for it. In fact, there's the blueprint of the lake. That was the actual blueprints that they used at the lake and the sand boat. That's what he started when we moved back here in 32. In 1932, they pumped sand here, and what this was, I said that sand boat pumped sand up on that particular picture to the tipple. The tipple set right in here. This bridge, and there was a railroad spur that ran right out through here, and they'd bring railroad cars in and load them up with sand, and they went all over the state. That was good. It was good sand, good quality. We got good quality sand under here, so they've used it for a lot of things in the state. But they had a railroad spur in here, and they could haul it out of here pretty easy.
And your father was one of the ones?
Yeah.
Keith Bourgain?
Yeah. He was actually the very one of the first. I got pictures of the sand boat sitting back in there that they brought up from Wichita and put on the lake for this producer sand company he worked for. Down there he worked on, you pump sand out of the river. Again, it was the Arkansas River, and the sand that's in it was used for a lot of things. When I talked about the ice and making ice, then they come along and they put, and a guy came along in 35 and made ice cream. And so they made ice cream in several flavors, and they made a butter container. They made butter in the ice cream, and what they did, they didn't go too much east of Sterling. They went Dodge City. They went out, I don't know if they went anything past Dodge City. Mainly it was up and down the railroad, in a sense, that they went on. And what they did, they had these containers like this. It says Sterling ice cream. Put the ice cream in that. Put it in this container right here. And this was the Sterling ice cream. Put it in this padded deal here. Froze this. This is frozen stuff that you put on there, and then they put dry ice on top of it. But they had this, and they packed all this on there. Put it in there. This was a short one. They had a tall one. There's the tall one. It held more stuff. And they'd ship these off to different towns to their depot. They'd pick them up there and take them to cafes for ice cream and stuff. Well, after a while, they started getting short on these. They wouldn't bring them back. So they go, what the devil are they doing with these things? Well, they went out through and kind of sent guys out to see what was going on. Why didn't we get these back? They were using them in their cafes to boil potatoes. And so what they did, this one here's a good one. I think this is a good one. Yeah, they drilled a hole in it. That stopped them. They all didn't start coming back then. They didn't come. So, these were telephones that come out. Upstairs was the telephone company. It wasn't accessible from in here. You had to go outside and we'll go up the stairway. These were the telephones you use. This is the wall phone here, and this is a little shorter wall phone. But you know, you pick up the phone and you take it, crank the crank. That dropped a little thing up on the switchboard that a woman was sitting there, and she'd see it go down, and she'd plug a plug into it and say, "Number, please." Now, you could take anybody my age or whatever that had these in their house. They always remember. I can remember mine, 205. That was the number. So you call somebody. If you call businesses like the mill, whatever, there was just maybe one digit. Number 6, number 8. Doris Bourgain was one of the operators up here. Her sister was one. Her mother was one. And they did at different times, but it was 24 hours a day that you could call on this. But you could call up. What you could do was, if I wanted to find my mother, I'd call up operator and say, have you heard my mother anywhere? And they'd say, oh, well, she's over in Mabel's over there. That's where I heard her call somebody. And but I was always very funny that. But anyway, you had the doctors that were in here. We were in 1902. They decided they wanted a hospital. They needed a hospital. So those doctors got together and they built the building next to us here that is now a garage. The hospital was upstairs. You had to go up 21 steps. I never could figure that out. You're sicker than a dog. You had to go up 21 steps to go up the hospital. Or they had to get you up there some way. There was no elevator. It was just stairs. And there were stairs inside the building next door. There were stairs outside. There's a picture in here says hospital right at the side of this building. If you didn't make it up there, you went downstairs to the mortuary and the furniture dealer. He downstairs. So if you didn't make it up there, you went down there. So in here, there's windows on this side of the building. One here, one upstairs, one in the next room, one upstairs. The wall that you see in there is the wall of the next building. They didn't care about, the doctors didn't care whether they closed these windows up or not. They left them there. So when I come in to clean things out, I just raked out the rough block brick that were in there. They just fall out on the floor. And so the wall that's in there is actually the wall of the building next door. It was there till from 1902 to 1909. Yeah, I think I want to say 7, but no, I'm not real sure. But I think it was either 7 or 9. But see, that's when That's when our granddad was in that thrashing accident. They brought him into the hospital that was at that 1907. It's 1907. It was there from 1902 to 1907. In 1907, they decided that there needed to be another place. There was a judge, a circuit judge, Ansel Clark's house up here, a great big 3-story house. He gave them at the hospital. So when our granddad had that accident, they brought him into the new hospital, which was up there behind the new hospital they built later on. That's this hospital in 1953 that they built the hospital. Then they closed that in 1976. The hospital up there.
Which is the College Art Center.
And now it's the Art Center, the College Art Center. Yeah. Just while we're here, right here, these are hoof and horn branding irons. Used them on horses and different animals, whatever. You put a brand on their hoof or whatever. Yeah. This picture here depicts the Buffalo Bills well orbit on the Santa Fe Trail. This one here is the picture of Main Street here in Sterling. This is the building we're in right here. This is the hospital sign that was outside here, telling me that the hospital was upstairs. This, hey, let's hit the broom corn. Okay, broom corn. Benjamin Franklin had gone over in Europe somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
He came back with some broom corn seed. That was introduced into the country. It was introduced in the country. This out here, because it was pretty good for growing sorghums and things like that, it became, they call it the broom corn capital. There was so much broom corn done. In 1897, there was a broom corn buyers here. This family went and sold a order for broom corn in Syracuse, New York. They put 20 carloads of broom corn, railroad cars, and put bunting on the side of them and flags and all that, and it went across the United States up to that, and then up to that factory where they made brooms. They made whisk brooms. They didn't make floorboards, these were whisk brooms. Can you imagine 20 carloads of broom corn? When I'm down, broom corn looked like, it broomed like corn. This is like corn. This is what they call dwarf broom corn. It grew about like that high. You didn't have machines that harvested this. You did people. There'd be gangs of guys, women, whatever. You go down through these rows like in corn. You what they call road these down. You'd ride it down like that and break it off at the joint down here. Then you'd take this bundle and you'd lay it down on the ground in a pile. Keep going down the road, and along would come horses and wagons and pick this thing up, take it to the farmyard, and run it through what they call a broom corn seeder. There'd be a gang of guys along a long bench. They'd take these bundles and spread them out, and they'd just move them down this bench, clear down to the end, where a guy would take these, wipe them through an opening in a broom corn seeder. It was 2 cylinders that had knives in them, and it would knock this seed off and throw it out in a pile. the seed was not good for cattle. It wasn't good for anything. It just made more broom corn. So that you just wasted it. It just go to waste. It wasn't good in it. I raised this just to see what it looked like. When you take these off, the seeds off, it leaves a little squiggly kind of a thing here. If you go over here, like this broom, if you take an ordinary broom and you look at it and you take and see how it's kind of squiggly ends on it, that's where the seed was. That's where this top seed was. And they just kind of trim it off and they make the broom out of it. Which is that in this case up here, we didn't have a broom factory. We had two guys, the Olsen brothers, lived down by the elevator down here. They made brooms. They made a shop broom, an industrial broom, and a shop broom, a women's broom. I have the last women's broom made. It's in here in the room in here. Olsen brother was into Smitty the barber getting the barber haircut, and Smitty said, "Hey, Butts Olsen," that's what Butts Olsen. Butts says, "I need a broom. My wife needs a broom. We don't make no broom anymore. We quit." And Smitty said, "Well, dang, I wanted you to make me a broom." That afternoon, old Butts brought a broom in. He made a women's broom for her. She used that broom, and I've got it in here. She's got it, and he put it in. He said, I after used it a while, for some reason, I put it in upstairs in the rafters of the garage. He said, "I'll get that thing out," and he said, "You can have that." Okay, so that's what I got that broom in there, the last broom made. I think they call it a daisy. There's a sticker on it that says Olsen Brooms or something. It says, I can get it out pretty soon. But the other thing I wanted to say was on the broom corn, this picture, maybe this one here too. These were broom corn, and they bundle them up at the farm, put them on these wagons, and bring them into a broom corn warehouse between the railroad tracks down to the mill, and then they'd be shipped out. I'm down at Silver Dollar City in Branson. I'm watching a guy make a broom, and up behind him, I see this picture, two of these pictures. And I just walked up there on the stage with him, and I walked back there, and I looked at him and things, and I said, "What is these? Where'd you get these?" He says, "Oh, we just thought we'd like to have those." They depicted a broom. It was a good picture of broom's corn and how it was looked at when it was brought in. I said, "I know where that's at. I'm from there." "Oh, you are?" "Yeah." I said, "I know where this is." So that was a broom corn time. This picture here was a good one too. That was the old pool hall over here, and there's a guy in this window. That's Doc Johnson. He was a dentist, and I'm not sure if it was this picture or this one here, but the one of them was raised by a W.L. Blanchfield. And I wrote it down on the blackboard. He raised 26 tons of broom corn on 72 acres. He gets $100 a ton. Now that's in 18. That's big money, and that was 1897. So that was really something else. I got the college annuals when there was just one, the very first one when they had they only had one graduate. There was one, just one.
Sterling College.
That was in, he's on one of them annuals there. One of them annuals. This that again, this is the other side of that. This is the guild's office over here. And all these pictures are lots of pictures in this thing here. This particular picture right here, I don't know if you can see it very good. This is the building we're in right now. This is when they had the 1880 fire. Right here, and it was taken from over here at the barber shop. That building there, the two-story building, just over here about a block, just crossed over here this way. But this building here is where we're at now, and it just nothing. I mean, it went down. This was a sandwich board you put out in front of the built up, and this is on Hannah's. It was down here next to the pool hall. But that was, this guy here, this guy here was one of those first flyers that were trying to prove to the War Department that an airplane was a viable weapon to be used, and he was one of those early Roy Tricker. He was, and I've got his wings even. There's his little wings. And that was his hat for Legion hat, but he had these little, it's awful dirty. Needs to have but that's his wings there. And that's him right here.
Is he from Sterling?
Yeah. He'd have been a good one to talk to. I wish the guy could have talked to him. He'd have had some good things to say. There's nothing more than a hoe. That's all it is. But what makes it so fascinating to people, and I've had several people, they put a stick in it for a handle. I mean, this is one on the farm, you don't go to the store and buy a handle. You just pick up a stick and you make a handle. Somebody's always wanted to have that. Want to get that. That John Elston in 1947, he caught a fish out of the lake down there, and that'd be Mom's uncle. Because she was an Elston, see, I think that was that'd be an uncle of hers, I think. Yeah. And this is Dr. Dicer. He was a very good physician. He really was. In fact, he born all three of you kids. He brought you in. Yeah. Yeah, and then all of these scales, there's more scales. I got more scales. I don't want to buy no more scale. I don't want no more. I got so many of them things. And then I had all these stove things. Well, here's the perfection stove. There's they are. That's what they used in these stoves. You could get different, and there's the wicks for them. Go in the all the scale. They were hide scales up there, then round ones they used for American weighing buffalo hides and then whatever. And these others were cotton scales. And there's my broom. I'm talking about my daisy broom. There's my daisy broom. That's the last broom made in Sterling, Kansas. And this was the Olson Broom Company, Sterling, Kansas. The Daisy, called the Daisy. But that was the last broom made in Sterling. This picture here was a confectionery across the street. John Elston is behind that'd be John that was over there. That's when he was younger, and he was a soda jerk on the back end of that.